So it is no surprise that there's a technician shortage today in, 2023. And in today's video, I'm going to be going over one of the reasons and the situations that follow as to why there's a shortage. And stick around towards the end because I'm going to be going over what I think will help push us in the right direction to get this problem fixed. Jumping straight into this video, there's a couple things I want to go over. First off, what we're going to be talking about today is flat rate and why it is killing this industry. Before I jump right into that, what I want to go over is this is going to be a little series I'm going to be doing here on the channel, my experience as being an automotive technician for the last few years, and all the pros and cons and everything that I find wrong and great and whatnot with the whole industry as a whole. So if that's something you're interested or something you want to compare your notes to as well in the whole industry, go ahead and drop a sub and leave me a like. So really, in order to kind of understand the history, we've got to kind of go back to 1920, right before, the Great Depression and everything like that, as to when mechanics started becoming a thing, because that's when Ford Motors started coming out and all this crazy stuff happening in this time, new revolutionary stuff happening in this time. And back in that day, mechanics, tradesmen, all that kind of field work that was going on, all was treated more like a servant rather than employee. A lot of people were trying to exploit these people and their skill for almost no money. It wasn't until about Ford started producing their first cars and actually needing manufacturing on these vehicles and mechanics to fix these vehicles, they started paying the mechanics $5 a day back in this time, which then helped grow the economy, which allowed regular working people to afford vehicles themselves. Back then, mechanics were actually paid an hourly wage or a day rate, and then the customers themselves would just build the actual time for the repairs of the vehicle. So at this time, the economy was booming, so they were able to afford all of this up until about 1930, when, much like the rest of the economy, started to contract. And so what they ended up doing was they would bill the customer the actual hours, but then they would do a 50% to the shop, 50% to the mechanic. This is how flat rate became. So remember that information, 50-50. This is super important. Think about this for a second. This is supposed to open up a whole perspective. Now let's compare that to 2023. What I'm going to talk about here is the average. I know some places are much higher with their labor rate. Some places are much lower with their labor rate. As a whole, across the country, the average shop rate in America is $140 roughly. The average pay rate for a C-level, an entry-level mainline technician is about $21 per flag hour. Most shops are still doing flat rate. Now, if you were to simplify that number compared to that 50-50 split back in 1920, in today's market, it's about 85-15, meaning only the technician is getting about 15% of the labor rate in today's market. And with inflation being as high as it is, that's not sustainable, especially if you can't have a 40-hour work week because of some of these other reasons. It's important to understand the economics of this industry because this next part is one of the biggest killers in this industry, and that's warranty jobs. Warranty jobs pay roughly half of what a customer has to pay. For example, if a customer has a vehicle and they have a transmission warranty and that transmission job itself pays 9 hours, the warranty is only going to pay you about 4 hours. The thing that burnt me out the most was getting a warranty job on a Friday when I was only at like 20-25 hours for the week. That shit sucked. A warranty has been a huge freaking problem for many years, and it's only getting worse right now because a lot of manufacturers, due to COVID reasons as well, are pushing cars that aren't even ready to leave the factory yet, actually. And a perfect example of that is Ford. I love using Ford as an example. I feel like they lost their touch a long time ago, but they really are slipping up in the industry. So Ford very recently has a recall on over 125,000 2.5 liter hybrid vehicles that are having premature engine failures, which is causing fuel and oil vapors to leak And the reason for recalling is these are causing high risk situations to where the car will catch on fire. And the last thing I really want to touch up on that involves flat rate, and I see this all the time, and this was actually one of the biggest things that killed me. Warranty was really bad. I only worked at a few dealerships. I was mostly independent, but this is what I saw all across the board. This is what is making me not want to be in this field anymore. Your job as a technician, you are not sales. Let me repeat that. You are not sales. You are in a service position. Your job is to serve others and help people fix their car. It's not your responsibility to convince a customer on any recommendations you put out on their car. It's not your responsibility to hustle more harder than you already are, although management will tell you that most of the time. It's not your responsibility to lie to somebody about something they need just because it's a slow week. All of these are situations I have seen firsthand at a lot of places I've been at, and I've actually straight up quit the day of for moral reasons on situations like that. So let's run through this example as to how much control you actually have as an automotive technician to create your own hours like a lot of places advertise. So you're in a shop, right? You have 5 mainline technicians and 3 lube technicians. And now let's say your shop averages about 25 cars a day. 70% of those vehicles that come in are only there for oil changes. They are going to go to the lube rack section in your shop, which leaves 7 other cars coming in throughout the day that need actual preventative maintenance work or some sort of diagnostics work or something that requires a more skillful person working on their vehicle. Now you can't divide 7 up evenly, so we're going to give each technician 1 car. Now there's 2 more cars remaining. This is what is called favoritism in this field, and this will hurt other technicians. The advisor or writer, whoever wrote up this ticket, doesn't necessarily mean they don't like you or whatever the case may be. Maybe they just like this person more, but then they give these 2 cars to this technician right here. This is favoritism. This is where this technician right here is now earning more that day, and you're only stuck with 1 car. Now sure, your car you're working on, you can maybe write up 8 to 10 hours depending on how much of maintenance and work it actually needs. But in my experience, and I shit you not, look at this next time you're just doing recommendations, 1 out of every 5 cars will actually sell. It's crazy. It's so crazy, but it's true, because you have no real control. You can write your recommendations, you can write your notes as to why it needs XYZ parts replaced or diagnosed or whatever, and then everything else is up now to your service writer and also your parts department, because parts are on back order. People aren't going to wait, or if they are going to wait, you're out of that time for however many months it's going to take to get that part in. You also might be thinking, well, what about the recommendations off all the oil changes? There's 18 other cars that came in that day. Look, I'm not dogging on any of the lube technicians out there. You guys are great. You guys help out a lot. But in my experience, and being a lube technician, in the beginning and everything like that, there is a huge disconnect of education on what to actually look for. I've seen this mistake. I've made this mistake a lot starting out. It happens. And it's nobody's fault but whoever you're working for. Nobody trains people properly anymore in all these jobs. People just want bodies nowadays. There's a shortage. They're just going to hire you just so they can keep business afloat. That's it. I've been in many situations to where I would walk over at one of my last independent shops. I'd walk over to the lube station and I'm just bullshitting with them, right? But I'm also looking at the car for them because it's slow and I need work. And there's some ripped bushings, loose bushings, loose whatever, and I'll take a pry bar and kind of test it, see how much play there actually is, all that stuff. Just do the normal. Be like, hey, why aren't you recommending this? Or some situations, there was one, brake pads, and this is super easy to overlook because not everybody does this, but brake pads, depending on how they're wearing, will wear unevenly on either side. They might be measuring one side and it's 5 millimeters. That's fine. Yeah, they don't need brakes right then and there, but they're not measuring the other pad. And the other pad could be a 3 because caliper pins are getting stuck, seized, whatever the case may be, And therefore, that's why it needs work. And again, a lot of these lube guys that are starting out, you guys might be watching this too. And I'm not hating on you guys. You guys do want to learn. I get it. It's awesome. I want you guys to learn. But there has to be a better education system for you guys coming into this field right off the bat, right out the get-go. Because what this whole last topic is, it's all about teamwork. You got to work together as a team to all succeed together. That's really the best way to ensure people are going to get fed properly. And I got something written on education and gatekeeping, which is going to be in another video. So again, like and subscribe to this channel here, and you'll get that. So my thoughts on fixing this, I don't think it's necessarily going to fix the problem entirely, because a lot of places are still going to do flat rate, only because it pushes people to work faster, it keeps profits up, and it just all around, it does more for the business than it does for the actual employee. And the biggest con with it, I think, because I get comments on this all the time when I post my stuff, because I take a little more attention to detail to clean stuff, make sure stuff is done properly and everything like that. And people will comment all the time like, oh, you must not be flat rate. It's like, what? I would have just fucking sent it. It's like, no, you don't do that. Don't sacrifice quality because you're on a time limit. Like, learn to do it right. And that's why I think switching flat rate to an hourly basis or a salary or anything like that will be more beneficial, at least for the technician. And I mean, the business is still going to make money regardless. You know, they're still going to make more money than we ever make, but it kind of evens out the playing field a little bit, makes it a little more fair, because this whole job does go unappreciated. I've seen it too, where a lot of people will just do stuff out the kindness of their hearts just to help people because that's what they want to do. Because this flat rate doesn't make lazy techs or dishonest techs or anything like that. Those people themselves are those people. You are who you are. You choose to be that way. If you think that flat rate makes lazy people, you're wrong. And if in some case that there becomes lazy people on hourly, that's a conversation that's all up to management now. They have to have that discussion with you like, hey, we noticed that you're, taking 8 hours to do a 4-hour job. Like, what's up? They have to correct it. And if it doesn't get corrected, there's termination. That's why people get fired. I've seen this already in a couple places, smaller independent shops that have good business, that have good morale and everything like that. And they pay their technicians on an hourly rate. And they have told me publicly that they have up in productivity. The quality of their work is improving. Like, there's a lot more positive coming out than negative. And I just don't think a lot of businesses are looking at the benefits in that way and keeping good reputation and everything. Just a bunch of greedy people out there that just want to keep making more and more money. And even me at my last place, I was on a guarantee. It wasn't hourly, but I had a set hours I would make. And there's been a couple jobs I went through there that I took the extra time, the extra 2 hours to make sure that, okay, this is it. Because I knew I was getting paid for it regardless. And I wanted to make sure it got done right. Whereas I know if I was on flat rate still, I'd start getting a little antsy. After the first hour, I need another hour of diag. I'm not touching this car until that hour diag is approved. Now I'm sitting there for 30 minutes waiting for the customer to call us back to be like, no, I'm going to take it somewhere else, or yeah, go ahead and approve it. And lastly, I don't know who to talk to. I don't know how to fix this or anything like that. Hopefully it reaches the right people, but warranty needs to be fixed somehow, some way. I know certain states have some sort of thing in place to where it actually has to pay 1.5 times more now in some states, but it's not everywhere. There's a lot of great shops out there. It's rare to kind of get into a really good one that's gonna take care of you, that's gonna help you, that's gonna put you on the path of success. You can't succeed if you don't have the right resources or proper tools. There's just everything kind of has to work together in order for you to succeed in this type of industry. If you stay at a bad place for too long, it's a dead-end job. So I will see you guys all in the next video. I got some other cool videos up here on the screen somewhere popping up soon. I'm going to be dropping some vlogs later this week at some drift events, and then I'll continue this series with another episode next week. I will see you guys all then. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know down below, actually, in the comments what your guys' thoughts and opinions are, and I will see you guys all later. Okay, have a good weekend, day, night, whatever. Bye-bye.